and once again, Mr. John Schwer, if you're back there.
Yeah,
there he is. Okay.
We see.
We can, I mean, yeah.
Go ahead, take a seat.
I can't direct you, man. You do what you want to do. All right. There we go.
Okay, well, I did my homework. See, I broke the movie down and I took my notes. And I got to ask you, last night, you got to see it for the first time. But this is the first time with an audience. What you feeling? What are you thinking about?
Why are you gonna mess
That didn't take long.
Is this on? Okay. Yeah, it's kind of surreal because, and we talked about this a little bit last night, that we had so much fun doing it, and it's really good to be able to see it and see that translates actually watching it and being able to see it on the screen and everything like that. I think that the fun that we had is sort of palpable while you're watching it. Mm-hmm.
You good? I'm good. Jordan is silent for the first time in his life.
Nah, hold on. Is this on? Okay, cool. Okay, I'm not silent. Hey, how you guys doing, by the way? Good? Okay, good. Seeing it for the first time with an audience, because we saw it yesterday, was obviously phenomenal. Just one of my main things for you guys, I was like, man, is everybody gonna get it? And I think everybody did. And I think that's the best part about seeing it with people. And people hearing you guys' reactions and obviously laughs and stuff like that. But that was cool to finally get somebody else's take, you know what I'm saying, on what we presented.
Yeah, I guess it's
Your turn.
It's weird because when you're working on it, you're so in it. Your perspective is right here, and you do your job, and you take your part, and of course the overall message, I guess. But what's really interesting that I noticed watching it this time and last night was that when I read the script, I was like, oh, well, I was reading it knowing that you were looking at me for Spencer, and so I was like, yeah, I relate to her in a lot of ways. But now with an audience, it's almost like I could flip my brain, and I was like, this is what it's like to see it outside of what am I gonna be? What am I gonna play? And I related to Wilson this time, which is wacky, and I loved seeing that and feeling that.
This is for John, but please chime in if you have anything to say.
Thanks.
From where did the idea for Nights come?
Just seemed like a fun idea, and I pulled zero from my own life and just thought, what would a depressing character feel like on a night out? I have no idea what that feels like. Let me try to dive into that person for a minute. Yeah, so, without trying to eat up too much scenery and time right now, I've always wanted to be a director before I knew what a director was. I was making films in 3rd grade with Brandon Barbello, and, shout out to Brandon. And like I said before, this feels like the same thing, but you have to, at some point, you get old enough, are you doing it, or are you just talking about it? And, I don't know, company called Fiesto Productions that's been very fun and awesome, and I try to put my filmmaking into that with HSP Studios, and I'm blessed to have all those relationships I do have. But from that footage, I cut together a reel, all right, time to be a director now. Let me put together my director's reel with all the sports stuff and things, and sent it to some trusted people. The trusted people are trusted because they were honest, and it wasn't a great director's reel, I found out. And once I got through my feelings on that, and I was like, what does a director's reel feel like? What does it look like? I don't know. And the best piece of advice I ever got was, how you feel right now in this moment is all I care about, and that's enough. And to be given permission to kind of dive into what this ended up being, I wrote it in 3 days after that. And obviously, I'm feeling some things, and I'm working through some things from my days with Brandon Barbello. So. It's just a fun alliteration. It rolls off the tongue. So that's kind of how that happened, and you know, as fast as I can say that.
Well, Brandon can have that effect on people. Yeah.
You got to play to the audience.
None of you knew each other before this project, right? You all came from different, or you found them through different associations of yours, right? What is it that compelled you about this project to want to participate in it?
I'll go. What's up, guys? Blaine. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Yeah, I got involved through this project through my buddy Leland, and his dad got me in touch with John, long story short, and I read the script, and it was beautiful. I was really moved, and then I met John, and like we've been talking about, he's such like a great guy, and I knew how much his heart was in this, and how much this was a part of him, and yeah, I think it comments on a lot of like life now and struggling to connect, and we had that commonality, and I was like, this is my brother, like I want to tell this story with him, you know. So the rest was just like amazing, getting the rest of this crew together. But yeah, that's it.
Yo, John is a really hard worker. I don't know if anybody knows that, but John will do anything for his cast, everybody that, you know, he puts on. And that's one of the reasons why I actually decided to be a part of this. Don't start blushing on me, man. No, come on, man. I know you're crying, dog.
You've never said this many nice things without calling me ugly, so I'm so sorry. I'm just waiting right now, so just yeah.
So, okay, cool. Let's make sure I'm loud enough. No, but when I got the script, I obviously related to Sydney, and I'm a very like gregarious, outgoing guy. If you guys didn't know that, but even with that, the best part is that you can always relate. Like with every character, everybody had something different, and I can relate to every character. And it's hard to do. You were saying this yesterday, but it's hard to do with an ensemble cast, especially on a short film, and tackle 5 characters. But even with that, one thing that like drew me to, you know, the script was that even if I'm not the reserved or whatever character, I have friends that are that way, and I have people in my life that are that way. So I can relate to every person, and the fact that you could do that, and the fact that you worked so hard and it was so important to you, I was like, I gotta do this for my dude. I love you, motherfucker. I love you, motherfucker, man.
I love you too, bro. I love you too.
But yeah.
Well, my turn. Here we go. I think I was one of the only ones who really auditioned, really.
He was one of the only ones to actually.
So by default, hello. I'm hopefully kidding. Anyway, no, when I read the script, obviously wanted to go in and then probably pestered John, which is always a good trait. And auditioned, and when I walked away, it just didn't really go away. You know, the script it's cool, it's powerful, it's an ensemble as well. You don't often get pieces where it's an ensemble cast. It's normally 2 people, and you know, best way to make friends is by being in an ensemble, isn't it? I don't know. Anyway. Where do I go from there? I've just said none of you are my friends. I'm joking.
I'll write you a script later. We can work on that.
No, but yeah, I really liked scripts, and then about 6-7 months later, John got in contact, and I screamed like a little girl, and I can reenact that in a minute for you. And then another 6 months after that, it was then flirted with the idea that we were going to make this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I should say, when that moment when I wrote it in 3 days was 2 years ago. So it's been a process to get here, but worth it.
Yeah, no, definitely, 100%.
I know John through another friend named John. I know that's weird. There's so many Johns. But so yeah, he had actually helped us with a project that we were doing like a few years back, and I'd seen through another friend a project that they'd done with him, and it was very good. And I just kind of, from knowing him, know that he is a person that does, like JJ said, work very hard, and he's very ambitious, and he's good at what he does. And so he asked me to come and read for it, and I was like, yeah, of course, I'll come do it. And when I read it, it was great, and yeah, everybody who he had reading for it was really good, and everything just kind of fit together. And then he asked me if I wanted to do it, and again, kind of piggybacking off what JJ was saying, that it just, because it was so good and because it was something that was so important to him, and I know how hard he works and how passionate he is, it was not really a question whether or not I would do it. So yeah, it was a pretty easy decision to have to make.
Yeah, I got a nice little DM in my Instagram. And it wasn't creepy. And it was so about the work, and it was like, hey, I have this script, I have this character, and I'm pretty sure Zach found my parody account first, which is this terrible satire of like the worst girl you've ever met in your life. And then somehow he found found me, the real me, and messaged me and directly was like, this is this character, this is this script, can I send it? And I was like, send away. I read it instantly, and I was like, I'm in. You emailed me, and I said I'm in. And this was April 2017. Then I kind of forgot about it because this is LA, and that's how things go. And 6 months later, he's like, okay, you ready? And I'm like, whoa, you're back. He's like, yeah, okay, I guess this guy won't go away. I guess I'll come to your house and do this read. No, but then we did the read, and it was like, we sat and we talked about the work for so long. And it was so refreshing, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not just like this face or this body or this thing in something. I am like a moving, feeling portion of a bigger feeling. And then I was there. And then I moved to Colorado, and then you guys chased me down, and you're like, come back, and then I came, and then here we are, and I'm so proud to be here. Wait, what?
That's a sort of creepy. Just
yeah. So there's the half stalkers, but like artistic stalkers, so it works, right?
Well, it's evident from the film that you all worked well together. And last night in doing the interviews with you, and then again here on stage. What did you specifically do to create that synergy that's apparent from the film?
Played games, we hung out. And there was no difference, and I can honestly say this, there was no difference filming versus not filming. I mean, there were moments where I was a little cranky, went into my corner, shut down JJ,
yeah,
and we had
shut me down.
Yeah. And we
were mid-conversation, I was like, yo, and she was like, and I was like, I think she needs some time to herself.
You were 6 hot chocolate. He would do hot chocolate with like 16 ounces of cream, sugar cream in it.
That's not a lie. That's all true. I was all jacked up. It was like 4 in the morning, I'm jacked up.
I don't know. And then Blaine and I don't know, like, there were moments of like, every single person I feel like I connected to on a really personal level, and we would just have like we were in the car for most of the time, but there were also a lot of changes with the camera, so we were having to exchange seats a lot. And so and I remember when I would have to go like be the person that wasn't in the car and the camera was taking my place, I was so sad. I missed you guys, and I'd sit in the other car and I'd wait for you because it was so much fun.
Yeah, I was, cause I mean, like I said before, if you haven't noticed, I'm really, out there, I'm up there. So when I came in, I don't really change for anybody. So I'm like, what up? It was good, you know what I'm saying? And no one changed. They were like, no one was like, oh, that guy's annoying. He's too loud. It's too early in the morning. But like, they actually like really took me in. And like Kaylee said, like on set, like actually shooting it and off, it was the same energy. We're playing What was that game we was playing? Mario Kart? I never beat you. I think you like 64 and old.
Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah, he was
I'm the best.
He was waxing my ass. Oh my. But like on and off set, it was the same. And then like you said, like when we knew, because obviously we were working long hours, if there was time to rest or whatever, we knew we can read each other. And I don't know how we did that because we didn't know each other like that. But it seemed like we did, man. It was crazy.
Blaine would just like, we'd be like, where's Blaine? And he'd be in a corner just doing meditation.
Yo, sleep standing up.
We'd be like, oh, and JJ'd be sleeping. I mean, it was crazy. We all did have I'd be writing poetry.
Oh.
I think too though, because when you're doing something like this and there's like an element of like pain associated, because it was we started from 6 p.m. and would go until 6 a.m.
Because John thought that was a great time. He was like, yo,
perfect time
6
of year.
p.m. to
It was
6 a.m., no
the middle
sleep,
of pilot
let's get it.
season. Everybody still had to work and audition, and we were exhausted. But we still all came. We came in, you know, with energy. We did it. We did what we had to do, and it was still fun. And I think when you that's obviously not an extreme thing, but when you go through something like that with people, when you're on set and then there's this element that's like, Jesus Christ, we're exhausted. That helps to bond you together.
It was like, fuck
through
this dude,
trauma,
man.
you know.
Wait, let's jump them all together. And it was like, yo, we're getting close, aren't we? That was crazy. So John, you almost died, but hey, we got close. You know? No, I love John. I love you. I love you, man.
I got the mic. I can't say.
You don't say nothing. Just let me talk. I love you, man. But say it loud so you love me back loud.
Huh?
Say, I love you.
I love you, Mom.
No,
Yeah, I feel like he wants me to comment on this. I related to, I think the fact that it was so late, like we were half asleep, and when we're all in that kind of weird dream state, just like all of our weirdness comes out, and I'm like in the back, like meditate, passed out, like behind the cameras, and everyone's like, Blaine, get up, and then like JJ's like rapping, like drinking his coffee. It's like we all of our random weird quirks and shit came out, and I think that like made us bond, because it wasn't like, oh, like it's time to shoot, like it's like a normal time in the day. We're like, this is a party, like it's like 3 a.m. right now, you know. Yeah.
Tell us about the invisible sixth man in the car, Ed Tran, and his work and what it brings to the film.
This guy smashed it. He's incredible, you know. Like, didn't quite know what he was doing when he was in the car, but then once you see what's gone on, you're like, wow, all right, that's impressive, isn't it? No, and a top lad as well. Such a nice guy. Like, made you feel very comfortable when he took his seat. When you took your seat, he asked, which is a very positive trait in anyone. He's a very pleasant guy. Like, it was fun to be around the whole time. There was never any issues with anything. So he's a top lad.
I mean, this man was crouched like Gollum for like 60 hours. I don't understand it. And what's crazy too, and I remember like seeing some of these takes, I forgot that the camera was on me, because it did just feel like that you completely filled in whatever character was missing, and you were so, there's just this omnipresent being that we trusted instantly. It was an innate trust.
And also too, you know, there were times that the camera had to take the place of one of us in the vehicle, so that, you know, we could get different shots and different angles. And so we would get a break at some point, but he never did get a break. He was like in uncomfortable positions the entire night, and sometimes his face would look like, I'll murder all of you. Like, don't talk to me right now. But the things that would come out of his mouth would still be so sweet. So,
and also, can we just did you guys see that scene when we all get in the car, and it's a 360 shot, and you see all of the characters. Where the fuck did he go? How did that happen? And we did this take. I mean, how many takes did we do? We did 6 takes on it. And when you guys got it, it was like popping beers in the street. Everybody
Yeah,
was
that was
celebrating.
wild.
And us actors, we were like, let me see. And they were like, fuck, you have to keep something secret. And you wouldn't let us see. And then we saw it, and I was like, well, this is why. Talk about it.
It took us 8 hours to shoot, get the first take off. And the whole time they're hanging out, waiting, and just, they're doing their thing. And we're like, this is a residential neighborhood. We don't have permits. Like, be quiet, guys, be quiet. Stop. We got to get this. And Ed's freaking out. Ed went full Tranimal. It was freezing cold. He's in a t-shirt, and just like a light broke, and he figured it out. So it was insane. So when we're sitting in front of the car, because we have to hide, and we have a monitor, and we're seeing this thing work, and we're like, we're gonna pull it off, we're gonna pull it off, we're gonna pull it, and it finishes going around, and the actors did such a great job. We got up, started doing the LeBron, we were yelling, and they're like, oh, so you guys can yell? That was the thought. And then they wanted to see playback, and it was one of the things where what you guys did was so difficult and so not self-aware, because that's the most self-aware shot in a lot of ways, because the camera's literally following you as it goes. So to see how it worked behind the scenes, I didn't want to lose what all of you had innately. I was amazed you did it the first time. But Shante, I kept telling you, like, I don't know how you are doing this. And you're like, John, it's really not that difficult. I'm like, no, it's insanely difficult. So I remember you saying that, and I'm like, it's insanely difficult because Ed did it, and he made it work. So Ed, props to you, man. That was fantastic.
Let's talk about Zach Letts and the music. And please explain the origin of the use of Scooby-Doo.
Oh, shoot. That's a multi-tier question. Zach Letts first. As I mentioned in my introduction, Zach, we went through middle school together, we went through high school, we never said a word to each other, never knew who we knew of each other, but that was it. And it wasn't until he decided to be a composer and I was directing, and I needed someone to direct or compose because you can't have copyright music, and that's how I'd done it my whole life. And then, hey man, remember me? How's it going? Yeah, you too. And we just totally pretended we knew each other so we could work with each other. And it's kind of been going that way since. And I sent Zach the script right early on, and I was like, you want to compose music to this? He's like, sure, that'd be great. When are we going to do this? And I was like, well, I don't know, it'll be a year or two. And then he turned out to be a producer as a result, because he's like, and I'm like, dude, you should be a producer. Like, no, I just want to get this made so I can compose, because I've had so many projects fail and I haven't been able to compose it. So that's where he came from. And with that time, though, he was able to really get inside the script and resonate with the character. And he had been working on it the whole time. He'd been working on the sound. And he didn't want to show me anything until we shot it, until after we had shot it. So we got together in a studio. He played it for me, was extremely nervous. And the melody and the sound that you hear now is the same thing. And this is where I have to give a big shout out to Robert Conrad, because he plays the guitar. He really worked on the melody and really is the hands behind it. He's an informed person. Zach tried to steer the ship based on the direction I gave him and composed it within the piece. But Robert Conrad played an insanely huge part of that. And CJ Vanston, we hit a home run getting him to work on it too. But then Zach spoke, because it's a singular story when you know what's happening. And he's like, that all those sounds you hear, that's one guitar. That's it. All the sound spaces, all that stuff, because it's coming from one person, and you can get these different sounds and things they were doing. Rob was sliding his fingernails on stuff. It was crazy. And yeah, it was very true. I told you to shake his hand. It's pretty impressive. But the fact it's informed by the story, and that's been how we got to this point. And we've recorded it essentially 3 times, and it's been the same the whole way. We just changed where it moved around and all that stuff and building the soundscape. And I love it. It brings me to tears when I hear it. It's paralyzing. So that's that.
Yeah, the cool thing about Zach is that Zach and John come together. Like, it's and they, whatever John did as a director to really discover his cast and the characters in it, Zach did the same with the music with us. He was there every step of the way. I think I had a meeting with them for about 3 hours at a coffee shop, and we just walked around different places and chatted, and I told him things that not even my mother knows. And I will never tell her either. And I think that's a personal note for Zach and John, is how much they attempted to get to know the person behind their character that they've made as well. So, you know, and I think personally, when I listen to the music, the score, the composer, you feel something, and I think that's the point, isn't it? So,
I said this, I told this to Zach before, but the music, I didn't notice it when it was when it was happening, and whenever I felt like I was lost in the words or lost in my performance or something silly, just watching it as an actor, but I would go back and I would step into the music and I would be instantly brought back into the feeling of the piece. And me not noticing it, I was like, well, there you go, that's your job, and you carried us through the whole time, Zach. And also, you are set mom, and you were the best set mom in the world. I was never hungry. I was grumpy, but I was never hungry. I had vegan food everywhere. You boarded me. Thank you. Are your parents here? You guys, thank you for letting me stay at your house. I didn't sleep at all because it was daytime, but I had a bed to pretend to sleep in. Zach, you're amazing, and you transported us everywhere, and you made sure everyone was happy and comfortable. And I'm sure, I just know it, I don't really know for sure, I'm sure that he was like patting you on the back the whole time, rubbing you, giving you, hugging you, I don't know, something.
No comment. So Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo.
Thanks for that. So it was interesting with the Scooby-Doo thing, because I thought we may have talked about it yesterday, but no one mentioned it. Do we remember the Scooby-Doo scene at all when we shot it and all that stuff?
Nah.
I still don't know words. Yeah. Well, the Scooby-Doo was a great piece of writing in the script if it had been in the script. Do we remember that now?
I remember
What, that we
This
agreed?
is pretty fantastic.
I remember circling. I remember we just, was this was the drive. Was this the drive that you were like, just
We just kept
drive?
going, right?
And then
you
someone,
just took a part of that.
yes, someone was like, we're like the mystery van. Is this the mystery machine? Is that what it's called? And then we started singing it. Is that what happened?
That may have been what happened. Yeah. It was like a big rework in the edit. What had happened was, because you talked about how to have that synergy, and I hadn't worked with actors of this caliber ever in my life, and I wanted to be prepared as possible to make sure this thing worked, because it's all it comes down to them. And a thing I realized the day before, I was like, I kind of wrote the Scooby-Doo cast. You know, you got Freddie, Velma, Daphne.
Uma.
Scooby.
I want to know who I am,
We got Shaggy. Shaggy's here. Ruh-roh.
and I must be the bus. Right? I'm the bus.
So to kind of get everyone comfortable, ladies and gentlemen, get it for Scooby-Doo. Ladies and gentlemen, there we go. So the idea was, let's get them comfortable with something, an improv. Let's see how that works. So I'm at that point, I am walkie-talkieing in through the car speakers. I'm like, all right, guys, no cheating, but when we call action, we're going to do an improv of Scooby-Doo, and you're going to figure out who's who in the scene, and we're going to just go, right? And they don't remember this, which shows how, I didn't need to write anything. It's really just them. And then they kind of worked it out, and they kind of landed exactly how I thought the characters were. And then I was like, well, do we know the song? And we're literally turning in to Decavese's camera rental, which is where we set up base camp. So shout out to Buddha. This isn't possible without his generosity. But in that scene, they're turning in, and they just start singing, and who knew that those two knew all the words? And then there are moments where Kaylee's like, I don't know what's happening. And I had thrown it in at the end, like a Marvel end tag, like here at the first edit. I was like, oh, this was kind of fun. Like, this could send us out, because this is a Marvel movie. And then that got as good of a reception as the entire film. And I got an idea. Let's retool this thing. And it's in there, and it ended up being a whole through line, and I think it still informs the narrative. Where are you? All that stuff. I don't want to speak too much about how it works on the inside, but that's really how it happened. And I thought they were going to say, why did you throw that in? That was an improv. And it really means a lot that you didn't even comment on it until right now. So that's how Scooby-Doo happened.
In the scene that I like to call Dominic's opinion, the film takes a moment to deal with race and prejudice. And I don't think it's intended to be social commentary. I think the scene's more about Wilson being able to show that he can empathize while his friends later can't when he shares his sad story, right? But there is a message there, right? And how do you feel about that scene?
Well, first of all, I mean, I feel like I should speak on this. I mean, I thought that scene was good. Well, it wasn't good, it was great. But I thought it was great because, like you said, it's not a social commentary. So it's not, we're not gonna hit the nail right on the head of like, what's going on, what's happening, oh my God, is this, prejudice in America? Like, no, we're not gonna do that. So it was cool because I've had friends who just really don't understand like what it's like. And instead of, us like kind of beating a dead horse or whatever, like, it was kind of like a natural scene of, someone trying to understand race. And can you have an opinion? No, you can have an opinion. Why? Because you don't go through this. You don't know what it's like. You know what I'm saying? And then we kind of got to that. And then Wilson even, chimes in and he's saying, sorry, my voice is gone. But even Wilson chimes in and he's saying like, yeah, like it's technically a blind spot, like something that we can't really see because we don't deal with it. So it was cool doing that scene, and it was more cool doing it in a more natural way instead of being like, yo, okay, you can't do this because, because slavery and like whatever the case. No, like, nah, it was something that like something could happen like at the, eating lunch at high school, like just regular talk, but it's still about something important. So that's why I love that scene.
I think it's illustrates too, especially at the time that we are now in this country, that you are going to either have friends or family members or just people that you're coming across, in everyday life that completely disagree with your opinions on things when it comes to these situations. And kind of, you're gonna have to, especially if it's your friends or family, you're probably gonna have to deal with that in some way. And in this instance, Dom didn't handle that the best, but I mean, that is also real. So I think it's definitely good to see something like that, especially with the climate of the country right now.
And being naive is still not acceptable, That character's obviously incredibly naive, and he was called out on it, rightly so. And he should be made to feel like shit for it, because naivety is not an excuse. So.
You damn right. You goddamn right.
It's not me personally, JJ, yeah? But yeah, and people who aren't educated in the subject, have to be educated in the subject and take the time. Anyone who does understand a bit more, or even if you don't understand, because like the scene says, me being a white male is never going to understand because of the privilege that I've had all through my life. So, so the respect, just from that. No.
Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate that. Can I have $100?
Huh?
Can I get $100?
No, JJ, no.
This is for Blaine. You mentioned earlier, this is obviously a very personal film for John. So it's got to put a lot of pressure on you playing that role of Wilson. What did you do, and also for the rest of you as well, what did you do specifically to prepare for this role, and what did each of you do to prepare for your roles?
Okay. It's a great question. I spoke to John a lot. We went like on a hike. I don't know if you remember this, but we had like a deep bonding Runyon Canyon hike where like, I'm not telling him this, but I know that this is in large part about him. And so I'm like really just asking deep questions like to know him, because I'm trying to be like a big part of him. That's really how I approached it, and we just like had some serious like father-son similar commonalities where I'm like, I can draw on this, like, yes. And I basically I tried to figure out it's what does this character need? What does this character want? I'm clearly like someone who struggles with intimacy and friendship, and these people that I create in this story, they're just like what I want to have, what I want to be like. And John told me like a lot of his life, like he feels like he's a director when he's looking out in the world. And I feel like we can all relate with a part of that. You know, I feel like I'm in my own world a lot of the time, and I try to just really like recreate that while at the same time wanting and needing this like friendship with these people who are like way more outgoing than me, you know? Yeah, that's it.
Your process isn't much, you're just you, right?
Yeah, what I love was different. Obviously, there's times in acting, the best parts about acting, when anyone's watching anything, the best part of anything you're watching is seeing people not act, seeing it be natural and real. And there's two ways to do that. There's a character that's kind of not who you are, and you kind of tap into that character, and you can do that. But for me, this character was like exactly me. I was like, hey, we doing this. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? Break, Andy, break it. We ain't doing that. So, like, you know, I'm obviously, you know, amiable and, you know, just loud and, you know, outgoing, stuff like that. So, like, this character was that. And I just really just jumped right in. It wasn't nothing. You know, no.
Well, I touched on a little bit of my character was naive. Just every day was just be naive. So easy, really. And also because it's an ensemble and you have to, you know, you got to read the room. You know, with these guys, they're going to give you everything you're going to need. So read the room, bring it. You know. So it's mostly these guys that produced anything that I had anyway. So cheers.
Yeah, I actually never really thought about this being Wilson's story in my process, just because I think I realized that Spencer yearns for a connection just the same way that Wilson does, and she just approaches it in a different way, but she wants to be seen. So for me it was, I think, and it's weird looking back, to be quite honest, because at that time in my personal life, and I feel like you tend to reflect where you're at, I thought I was connecting with people, but I really wasn't. So it's like weird to see that. Oh no, I'm getting emotional. To see that like, that's, it just kind of, it was like this project was a gift for that time so that I could see it now and see it for exactly what it was, which was a girl like yearning for connection. So it's just, I mean, I think you just, your job, my process as an actor is being completely present to what I am at that moment. And at that time, it was a girl yearning for connection that thought she was connecting.
I feel really bad now. I've made Kaylee cry twice in 2 nights.
Twice in 24 hours, yeah.
What do you want? What's the one thing that you want, each of you wants, the audience to take from this film?
You sure? Okay. Okay.
Watch it, tell people about it. No, I mean, I've maintained when I wrote it, when I've edited, when I've sent it to people, I know 80% of what this thing is. There's 20% I don't have my arms around, and it's not mine to say what it is and what it isn't. So I just want to tell my story and add to the conversation and hopefully entertain while I'm doing it, but really just to open up some conversation. I've had some of the best conversations with all of you and the people behind it and who have been involved, just because I feel like for me, this was a step forward. Like I'll show you mine, then first if you show me yours afterwards in a way. And that's kind of how it felt like. I'm out, I took that step and that was really scary. But I'm here now, and I do want to say, if you 5 disappear, I don't know what I'll do. That'll be really terrible. So I'm glad all of you are here.
Personally, I mean, I think there are, you can take this film many different ways, and I think that's part of the thing that's great about it. And that's part of the reason I wanted to do it, is because it isn't just handed to you on a platter. It's open to interpretation, I think. But what I have taken from it is that, like right now, I think mental health is a big issue, and it's, you know, a lot of things are coming to the forefront in society where we're recognizing things for what they are, and I think this film, it definitely creates an opportunity to have a conversation about things like this that are happening, and that's just personally how I guess view it, and what I would like people to take away and talk about once it's over.
I think mine's pretty similar to that sort of thing, but also it's, you know, you don't know what's going on in people's minds or what's going on with them, and if they're acting out in any way, don't judge. You go through bad days, ask them how they are, offer to help. Don't just be that person who just goes, oh, look at that guy, he's mental. But, you know, like, don't be that. You know, ask them how they are, ask them if they want something or need something. It's 30 seconds out of your day. You know, just be nice, you know.
I think I said this yesterday. I was gonna say, I think the main thing to take away, because obviously, like, you know, you're the director, you don't even know, you know, the last 20%. So at the end of the day, it wasn't supposed to be funny, but it was. Yeah. But at the end of the day, everyone has their own interpretation of the film, what happens at the end, whatever it may be. But I would say that, and I know this kind of sounds cliche, but just always be yourself, man. I mean, I played a character that was like me, but all of us, we all know one of us. You know, I know an introvert, I know a mysterious girl. I know, you know, I got a black girlfriend. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, not black girlfriend, but like, you know, friend girl, whatever. But kind of that can relate to me, you know, on certain issues. We have like kind of like the ignorant, naive, you know, that person that's in our friend group sometimes, you know, for real. And even though I'm not every character, I can relate with every character, and I know everybody can. So I think that the best thing to take away from this is just go through whatever you got to go through. Be whoever you are. Don't change for nobody. Everything good.
Yeah, I feel, yes, yes. I feel like these characters, no one is good or bad. These are whole characters. They're real people. And there's no demonizing our defenses. And I think we all have our own way of coping with whatever's coming at us and our shame, and we have trouble being vulnerable. And I think the greatest thing we can offer to ourselves and to each other is compassion and perspective and empathy. And that's what I hope everyone takes from every piece of art, but especially this piece.
Yeah, I think just as artists and storytellers, like, we want to affect and inspire in some way. And I think this story, it's like, what it's really talking about is needing some sort of connection that I feel like in this world, the way it is, we were talking about this in our interview, I feel like we're becoming more and more isolated in modern times. And this Wilson's a guy who you see is clearly, like, in his head, he's struggling to connect. It's just the importance of, like, we're here. Like, let's be affected in some way by each other. Let's, like, not be in our own little introverted bubbles. Like, let's reach out. And I think that's, like, a lot, like, what I wanted to, like, tell in this. And I think that's a lot what John was trying to do, is reach out, you know?
And I will say something too, just about the writing in general. The script itself is a skeleton, and you knew that you were going to cast intelligent actors, and you knew that the audience was going to be intelligent. And in this whole process, this skeleton has been something that we all have supported with whatever flesh we bring in. And I want to give you guys all credit that the moments where you weren't speaking were honestly where it said everything. It was your most truthful, authentic moments. And I think that's a big commentary on how we live our lives a lot of times. And it's really impressive, and you guys are so talented, and I love you so much.
Okay, final question. I know I want to see more from all of you. So, and I'm sure I'm not the only one here that wants that. Right? So what's next?
Oh, no. Well, that's the $1 to $15 million question, I guess. I don't know. We can talk about getting some screen time in exchange for Google money. I don't know. Yeah. No, it's a weird thing. It's a continuation of what I've been doing my whole life, and to not be able to do it would be, that would hurt, but I also feel like, creators got to create, you gotta take the shots, right? And the goal of what's next is to get another at bat and maybe make it a longer film, so we don't have to talk as much in the Q&A and you can watch more. But I'm working on some things, and it's weird going through that process. That question of how do you feel right now, it's all that matters. That's kind of been a nice gateway, because I feel differently now that these people are real. Now what do we do? And I have some ideas and thoughts, and I'm working some things out, and but that's a big step that comes next. But this was a big step, and I'm amazed. I fall into that monologue so fast. I'm like, dang it. I'm like, you sly dog, you got me monologuing. It's just like this whole thing trips me out. Blah 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 blah. I don't know how I'm lucky enough to be here. I'm thankful for tonight, and I hope to have more nights like this. So that's what 2019 looks like. That was an incredible spot. Yeah.
We're all up to nothing, so John, hurry up.
Yeah, we're waiting.
That's me done.
This took 2 years. I don't know how long it'll take you. 90 minutes. I'm sorry.
I've got time.
Yeah, I guess that's. 9:30. Rel show on Fox.
Oh my God.
Fun little anecdote at the end. When I first met JJ, I knew 2 seconds in, he was like, "What's up, y'all?" I'm like, "That's Sydney. Cool. We ain't even got to read." And we had we had pizza, and we were having a good time, and that was our catering for the night. And at the end of the day, JJ's like, "Yo, what are you doing with that leftover pizza?" I don't even remember this. Okay. Now I don't know how he carried that many pizzas home with him, but he was hungry and broke. And he brought a lot of pizza home, and now we have different conversations when we have coffee. Now that someone did well in pilot season and has a show on Fox, so. I'm gonna remember that pizza. Remember the day we fed you with a pizza? You got that? All right. We all heard that. So that's kind of yeah.
Well, thank you everybody for coming and supporting John, and have a wonderful evening.
There's.